I'm joined by Wendy Smith, the Accounting and Financial Advisory Director at Deloitte, to speak about small business and some tips around good governance. Welcome.
Thank you.
Wendy, just some basic tips that you find in your sector that really help small businesses.
Well, I think when you talk about helping small businesses, it's all around the approach that the entrepreneur or the founder takes. And when they're looking at their business, they need to make sure that they show great tenacity in terms of persevering through whatever their vision is or whatever their intention is.
So it's quite important not to deviate from that kind of persistence.
Yes, because let's face it, life is all about speed bumps and stop and goes. So one must expect that, and one must prepare for that, and one must be tenacious in terms of how you're going to deal with it. And how you deal with it is probably the second tip, is to make sure that you understand what is required from you. Be careful that you don't fall into the trap of thinking that you know everything. You don't actually know what you don't know. So where you need to surround yourself with good advice, good guidance, it's very important to do so. Take that information on board, evaluate it, compare it, and put it into your plan, and then take the best decision based on that information that you have. Then the third thing is around making sure that you do sweat the small stuff, because if you don't ensure that you look after the administration, the governance, all of those kind of things, those are the things that can come back and bite you. So for example, you focus on the wonderful stuff, you go out to market, you find wonderful clients, but you don't pay enough attention on, for example, managing the administration of your payroll, so you forget to pay the pay-as-you-earn across to SARS. Very quickly that'll lead you into trouble, it'll end up in penalties and fines, and those kind of things, those simple things can tend to sink you, because cash flow is important in a business. And those are the big things that can end up being the difference between success and failure.
So what tips do you have for a business to ensure that they've got good cash flow coming in?
So from a cash flow point of view, number one, make sure you understand what the timing is in terms of buying and selling. You've got outlet costs, you're then selling to a customer. Make sure that you understand what that time lag is, so that you can plan accordingly and that you have enough working capital to manage that. Secondly, leverage. So with regard to your customer base, negotiate the best possible payment deals that benefit yourself. So if you're in a professional services environment, for example, negotiate part payments, not just payment at the end of a project, by way of example. On the flip side, in terms of suppliers, negotiate the most advantageous payment periods for yourself. So the longer you can delay them, the better. Obviously, that would help you. But most importantly, understand the lead times of your business and how much cash flow you need to go from month to month. When are your most expensive outflows of cost, or the greatest outflows of cash, versus when are you cash flush, and make sure you manage that.
So you engage with small business leaders quite often. What experiences do they share where you feel that these are good learning tips for other entrepreneurs?
Sure. I think the one key learning tip is around strength of decision making. So when you make a decision, as I said earlier, make sure it's considered, and then once you've made that decision, execute on it. You need to be tough. You need to make sure you make tough decisions, and sometimes those tough decisions are hard. You might have to let go of somebody that is kind of your mate, that's come along with you for a journey, but that person is not now pulling their weight, or not working the best interests of your business. You have to then let them go. That's a hard decision. It might be around a customer who you feel is not ethical or who's not paying you, but you kind of feel committed to them, but you have to make that hard decision. It might be a decision around this particular product that I really put my heart on is not working. I need to let it go and rather focus on other things that are starting to prove popular with my market. So make sure you understand and make those decisions quickly and smartly, so that they don't cause you to bleed.
But I think the main point really for small businesses is around good governance, to really
Absolutely.
stick to good governance, because
Yes.
if you don't,
Yes.
it can undo all the good work you've
Very
done.
much so, and that for me is the basics. I mean, you can have the best ideas, the best customer base, best supplier base. You can have the greatest concept, but if you don't look after the basics, they could impact you, and in a number of ways. Number one, as I said earlier, from a cash flow point of view, and number two, it takes your eye off the ball when you actually have to fix it. So, and that's the last thing you want, because then your business is going to be impacted. And often people say, oh well, I'll just do that in my spare time. A typical entrepreneur will say, I can do that, it's easy. My recommendation is, if you don't have the time, or if it's not your key strength, get somebody in to help you with it, whether it's at a consultant or advisory level, or whether it's somebody that you employ on a part-time basis or a full-time basis. But make sure you tick that box, and that you make sure that you also have checks and balances in place to make sure that that person is in fact doing what needs to be done.
Thank you, Wendy.
It's my pleasure.